And let's see, share my screen somehow. All right. So welcome everybody. Week 4 is done and dusted, which blows my mind because I feel like we just had the kickoff meeting. So that's good. It's going quick this year. As always, thanks to each and every one of you. There have been hiccups and headaches every single week, and you've all weathered the storm beautifully. So thank you for that. Here's what the week looked like. 2 close matches, 12-15 and 10-15. And then Brian Hall got the track meet, 60-7. What did your GPS say, Brian? How many miles? No comments.
Wait, GPS. I'm at an airport right now. Just so if you hear a plane taking off, which you will in 3 seconds.
Cool.
I probably clocked like 5 miles.
5?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was like a casual jog though. I knew which way to run.
Good. Well, thanks for doing all that sprinting for us. It was fun to watch.
Welcome.
Thanks also everybody for the feedback after meetings. I really appreciate that. And one of the things I do want to say is just kick this meeting off by saying we're doing lots of things very, very well. And I'm sorry that wasn't a highlight of last week's meeting. So let's remember as we're doing the reviews to also say positives. And I'm probably the #1 offender in that case. So forgive me. I'm just really driven and I focus on like, what can we fix? So feel free to call me on it because you guys do great things. And maybe I just don't remember to mention them. So this week I noticed that everybody paid a lot of attention to the scrum setup. So maybe our outcomes weren't great, but we were paying attention to the setup. There was nice time between our crouch, bind, set calls. So that was good. And we, across the matches, had a lot of space to play in. So it's nice to see people working and making that space at the offside line. So thanks for that. Anybody have any comments on any of this? Okay. A little bit of me talking, housekeeping stuff. If you have not done your development plan in Advantage, take a look at that, try to get it knocked out for me. We are the Premier League running right now. So other referees do look at what we're doing. They do look at your stuff. People have commented. So let's make sure we get that done. Hopefully everybody saw the email about flights for finals. Let's book those, book them sooner rather than later. Flights are going up. They've gone up like 10% since WPL started, since the season started. So they just keep increasing. And I don't see that trend stopping. So let's get them booked. And then finally, I don't know how it's going. I've talked to a couple of you guys, but this is a little bit of a different situation where you may have a personal coach who is not part of the WPL. So if you need to talk to me about that relationship or how that's going, tying WPL in with your coach, if some of you guys haven't done that communication before, I just want to check in and make sure that's going all right. So that's pretty much all for me. Anybody have housekeeping stuff we need to discuss?
Yeah, Amanda, it's Peter. Just to circle back to the development thing. Last night, Dan said he was going to try to put his in today. And it looked like there are a whole bunch of updated May 4th, but nothing in there. So Dan, I'm wondering if you put things in and are still having trouble.
I thought I put things in. Is it not showing up?
Why don't you take a look and see what you see? Next time, you don't have to do it right now, but next time you have a chance.
If it doesn't update, if you're trying to save, just send an email to whatever
Richard.
that help. Yeah, to Richard, but whatever the help email is there for Advantage. I'm not sure what it is. Cool.
I know what it was. I had two sections that were the same thing. And so every time that I tried to save, it wouldn't save. So when I removed the duplicate current reality, then it worked. So it should be good unless somebody else can't see it.
I'll take a look later, but
That
thanks.
happened, Dan, that happened to me too. Sorry, happened to me too. And I just had to delete one and then re-type it all into the other.
Yeah, I have a whole cell that won't save information for some reason. So I just have to put it in the wrong place. Cool. Thank you. Okay, who gets to go first today? Doo-doo. How about Dan?
Great. So this is my first one, so I introduce myself and do like short game recap. That's the plan.
Yeah, let me pull this little doohickey up here. So personal goals or process around game prep and development, if you want to talk about that. If anything from your match kind of stuck out from you as one of our preseason focus area items, and any trending in the match that somebody doing the match next week should know about.
Got it. So my name is Dan Frankenfeld. Use he, him pronouns. I live in Minnesota, just north of the Twin Cities on Dakota land. And this game was played at like a high school turf field that was a football field and also a soccer field and lined with concrete. And the posts were behind the end zone, off the field, and the crossbar was a net. So it wasn't the best lines and field conditions, but we did our best to make it work. Goals and process for prep. I had phone calls with both coaches, the personal one from USA Rugby and Peter, and we talked through what the game's focus should be. My last 15s game was in October or November of last year. I was working on positioning, scrums, and communication. The goals for this match were switch from 7s mindset to 15s, so slow down the penalty, try and get more game management in there, and to focus on the scrum. That's been a perpetual, I'm a student of the scrum, and I'm like at a lower grade level and trying very hard to advance. So I think that's the first part. Focus area from preseason would be the scrum, and trends from the match. We had penalty trends in the first half for the Amazons not rolling away. They fixed it in the second half. The penalty count was much higher than anyone wanted. The penalties for Orsu in the second half, like the trend was offsides, but it wasn't, or it didn't strike me as a theme of the team or a way that they were playing. It was just offsides at a kick, or offsides after a knock, or there was a ruck that the Amazons won and somebody didn't back up with the back foot. Those types of situations. Something that a player mentioned after the match in terms of trends was concern about what's our standard for no pressure at engagement. I'm lost on what they are looking for or what that means, but I'm surfacing it for the group. And I think that's the overview. Peter, would you amend or correct or add anything to what I've said so far?
Nope, that's a pretty accurate summary, other than, you can't get inside the Amazon's head and figure out why they kept choosing scrums when they were getting pushed all over the park.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming by pressure, are they referring to axial loading or maintaining the gap at the scrum maybe?
We had a scrum, I forget, it was a reset or restart, but we said bind and I saw head contact. So we reset, said keep the gap. They were talking about after set, wanting no pressure until the ball is in. So I get it for the standard of early push, but the the way they explained it to me after the match was that they wanted like no pressure at all, like no lean. And I don't know what that means or if we're doing that.
Yeah, the way a scrum might work in a perfect world, but not something that we can.
Yeah, that's a new one
Yeah.
for me. I mean, I've always presumed when you get set, you've got a mutual lean against each other.
Right.
And that's why there's always a moment of settling after you say set. Well, that evens out.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there with like an egg between their shoulders and, not breaking it.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll see if that resurfaces.
Okay.
Ready to go to clips?
Yeah.
What do you want to do first?
Let's go with the scrum defensive tight head driving in. So in short, I got this one wrong. We have the gold tight head driving in and across the scrum. So instead of moving backwards, it moves back and across. I pinged orange tight head, which should be the far side for standing up. That had been my trend for the game. I issued 4 scrum penalties. One of them was a yellow card for repeat infringement. And I'm going to use explicit language, and then we're going to move on. Feels really shitty to screw up scrums and issue 4 penalties in the wrong direction. And we're gonna move on. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, so there's an opportunity for improvement. Is that what you just heard?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for using better language. I am
Sure.
Yeah, not good at that.
Okay. That's okay. That's part of what we're figuring out here. Boy, this video is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, second half's even better.
So we've got gold at an angle there to start with.
Yeah. Gold 3 is at an angle.
Driving
during the
up
binding
and
process.
up and in. Okay,
Yeah.
does everybody kind of see that? It's far away, but see, she's got these white shorts on and you can see her butt to the camera once we get going.
Rugby.
Rugby.
Yeah, and the other thing that, Dan, that we didn't talk about is, when you see a front row getting lifted, if you're not sure of a fault, you can always just do a reset. I think you only had one reset during the game, one reset during the game.
Okay.
So, resetting is not, always a bad solution. It's better than guessing.
Yeah, there have been years when we've seen a lot of lifting in the front row. I haven't really noticed it prior to this game.
Yeah.
What's next?
When we do to allow or disallow, a quick throw.
Okay.
If you couldn't tell, I chose to allow it during the match. I think Peter raised a very good question about for the group and or myself of if there's enough people in that area, do you disallow the quick throw? Are they assumed to be there to form the line out? In this case, it felt so quick and that neither team, yeah, I won't voice my opinion, but that's context.
I think if we disallow this, we're not enabling positive rugby. I think it, like you said, it happens so quickly. I think I mean, some of these people are my age, but I was going to say the kids want to play. So I don't know. I'm okay with the play on here.
Anybody else?
This is Andrew. I think I agree with Shanda here. And I also agree with Dan. It doesn't look like the players are there to form a lineout. I think they're just there as coincidence as the game is flowing. I think that letting the quick throw go just promotes good running rugby here.
Okay. I'll be honest, previous years and in previous competitions, which this is going back to like 2019, this would have been in 2020. This would have been a whistle and a set the line out because the number of bodies there. And I'm wondering if the standard has shifted. So I was actually thinking about taking this and talking to Jamie about it and just seeing, because it didn't really catch my eye as a problem. But then when I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, we definitely would have stopped this 2019, 2018, even 2020 MLR, we would have stopped it. So let's just leave this as inconclusive and I will follow up and we will revisit.
And just to be clear, Amanda, this is Haley. We're contemplating if like in law, this is fine. But if we're just talking about if we want to have this for like the structure and the standard of WPL.
Right. So the law says if there's 2 players from each team, then the lineout is formed.
Right.
So previously, and this goes back like 2019, 2020, we would have stopped it and said, no, there's players here to form the line out. Let's form the line out. But I feel like now in the rugby that I'm watching, more the standard is to let this go. And like, as Shanda said, promote the play and go with the quick. So I'll just get more guidance and follow up with you guys tomorrow. Okay.
Was there a response from the players by chance?
Everybody looks happy to play on here. Anybody complain, Dan?
No.
Yeah. I think we're just moving towards a faster style of rugby. And if there's no reason to stop these, we're not stopping them. But yep, I will follow up. What's next?
One more above is the high tackle card worthy.
So this is a high tackle. Is that it? Just it says
Yeah,
dangerous. I wanted to clarify.
Context on this. They have already committed 2 or 3 high tackles through the course of the game, and now we're in the 78th minute. So take it in the context, not just by itself.
I can barely see the tackle. Let's see.
Amanda, can you make the screen bigger? Like hit the, yeah.
I may need to slow it down too. Okay, it happened right there.
I've tried both. I've tried to make it bigger. I tried to slow it down.
This is Wendy. It's the first tackle, not the one that kind of grabs her at the front. Is that what we're trying to find?
Yeah, I think it's this tackle right there.
That. Okay. I was like, the other one looks fine. Okay. Thank you.
I can't even really tell that that's high from video, to be honest. So let's just assume it is high and speak contextually about the situation. Does that work? Am I unmuted? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, high, but certainly not direct and with high force to the head.
So then the question is, how close together were the other infringements? Or is this just spread out across the game? This happens to be the 3rd high tackle by them.
think they were pretty spread out. I didn't perceive a trend that it was happening, like an example in their defensive 22. In this case, they're putting pressure on like Orsu's half of the field. And I think there was one in the first half. They were spread out. And
Yeah,
Peter, did
that
you
matches
notice?
my memory.
Yeah.
And which part of the pitch are we in here? Is this the 10 meter?
Yeah,
Or is this-
that's the Orsu 10-meter line.
Okay. All right, so now I feel like we have all the pieces. Who wants to talk about whether we should card that or not? I'll tell you what I think, but you know.
Hey everyone, it's Marty.
Hi, Marty.
I think my feeling here is that since there was significant time between and the tackle alone wouldn't have been cause for a card through like the game management guidelines or no direct contact or any of those other check boxes. I feel like maybe if you feel like there's more than a penalty only, you could always go to a conversation and just really ensure the captain to bring the tackles down. But I don't think a card is necessary. That's just my 2 cents.
I agree. So penalty only. Anybody disagree?
I have a question.
Yes.
I've been counseled that for any foul play, you cannot have penalty only. It must be penalty plus admonishment. Is that not the case?
No, that would not be the standard.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Bang a quick penalty and let them go.
Got it.
Identify the culprit.
Yeah. No, note in your own brain who it was and roll on. Because if you stop them to admonish, you're taking an opportunity away from the other team to go quickly or play the ball as they want.
Yep.
Cool. What else we got?
I have a backup clip, but I think we're over 20 minutes.
Okay. Is it
So,
quick?
This is another version of the same scrum. There were 29 in this game. You can see my perspective was orange head standing up, tight head. Peter pointed out, you can see the loose head driving across. I watched it a few more times today and you see orange drop their bind. Yeah, but the great coaching tip that I'm kicking myself, that I'm reminding myself is an opportunity is to stand on the appropriate side of the scrum. So if I'm having issues with the Orsu loose head or the orange tight head, I should put myself on that side of the scrum. I stood on the scrum half side, put inside every time, which was a rookie move in my opinion.
Okay. Well, lesson learned. Move forward.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. I think that's all from you. Did we get everything?
I'll say
Yep.
one more thing. I was talking with the Amazons and they said, Andrew did a great job last week. So I want to pay forward a compliment and some positivity.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, next up, Marty.
Hey everyone, good evening. As you could tell by the report right here, it was an incredibly fun one. It was an absolutely gorgeous day up in Boston or Cambridge. The sun was out, the facilities were great. That was my first time up there. And a lot of good potential for ball. My work-ons pre-match were for the whole season, definitely scrum comfortability. And I had a really good conversation last week about body shapes, which was great, especially when it comes to front row. Another one is trust, both with captains and in myself. And I feel like that went well. And then the third was increasing presence in and around goal area. And I felt like that could also use some more work, again, moving forward. Yeah, trend wise, Beantown had a very, very good maul, a very strong maul, and they would like to use it in opportunities that they had. Both teams aren't afraid to kick when they're not gaining any ground midfield. There was the Berkeley lineout pause that I had a conversation with Captain in my pre-game chat, but I let it get away from me, and we could see a clip about that. And then the Berkeley 8 not being fully bound in the scrum. I let a couple go without managing, and then I managed it at the end of the first half, and then we saw that stop affecting play. So those are some trends. And yeah, Bob, do you have anything before we hop into clips?
No, we're good.
Sweet.
All right. Have all your clips in here?
I think there's one more.
Okay. All right, where do you want to start?
Great. Yeah. So I think we could start with that ruck near the goal line. Uploaded. Yeah. So this right above.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one is from a kick and play, and we see Beantown bring it in goal, and then luckily get it out of in goal, and then form a ruck. But then the ball goes back into in goal, so the ruck should have been over. And in the moment, I would have managed Berkeley to stay out of and off of that ball, but the ruck should have been over by the time. And then there's also this ugly caterpillar thing. Yeah. So yeah. So the first comment there is, yeah, is this is the ruck over here? And I think the answer is yes.
So the first questions I asked him is, as he's playing the ruck there, where is the ball, right? And he's telling me the ball is in the field of play. It's not in goal. So he's playing a ruck there, like right outside the goal line. So the questions become, but from there, Beantown rucked the ball back in goal, right? So you'll see that when she plays the ball, she's about a half meter in goal. And then Beantown also sets up this, well, it's almost like buck, right? It's this whole wall of people, right? It just a protection. And I kind of asked the question, I'm like, what if Berkeley, when they were rucking that ball back in goal, dove in when that ball's in goal, would you have awarded the try? And he honestly said, no, I wouldn't have, but.
Right, because I was managing it more of a ruck rather than focusing on the goal. So I feel like this is an open conversation. So if anybody has any points to chime in.
Well, what's the law say about a ruck and once it gets in goal?
That it's over.
This is a clarification. So the fact that the ball carrier or the former ball carrier is outside, so the ruck, the fact that they have the posts or the supporting side ruckers in goal, that's what makes it in goal, or is it the body on the ground?
So the ball is
The
right
ball
there.
Oh,
touches or crosses the goal line, the ruck is over.
Yeah.
okay. I thought the ball was with number 10, but you're right. I see it.
Yep.
Okay. And then my other thing was, I remember I was traumatized one time watching Jenny Lou like jump in and hit the ball down and like yell, the ruck is like, it's over, it's in goal. And my mind was like, oh my gosh, she's right. And it was a traumatic moment for me because I totally forgot about that. Just want to say that one time. As I was in an AR and like a little pano on, just like a tiny little girl.
Oh yeah.
The time.
Michelle O'Brien and I got into a disagreement.
Michelle, yes, I was gonna say because of reference, but yes, it was Michelle.
But yeah, anyone can stick their grubby little mitt in there.
long as
And
they're
we
on their
did.
feet, don't get on the ground and slither in there like a snake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think an excellent clip to show that, you're in the mindset of how it started as a ruck, but it's in goal. So you have to be aware that things change very quickly when that ball gets in goal. I think this is an excellent clip because this is something that can happen at any point, and you got to be able to switch that, oh no, it's not a ruck, right? And how many of you would have played a ruck? And you have to ask that honest question. All right. And so I love this clip.
So just a quick question, just graced over the ruck law in the law book very quickly. And there's nothing that defines where a ruck is. There's nothing in that law that says that it's about where the ball is. And I understand that's something that we just kind of accept. That's
The
case.
very beginning of the law should tell you where a ruck can happen, and the answer is in the field of play.
Right. But it doesn't clarify what states where a ruck is. Is the ruck where the people are, or where the ball is? There's nothing that says that.
Yeah, it is. Look at
Yeah.
look at the last section of ruck law. So the ruck ends and play continues
ends
when the
when?
ball leaves the ruck or when the ball in the ruck is on or over the goal line.
Goal line.
Boom. Thank you.
Right. It's just like anything else. Like you see a ruck, it's being kind of like driven a little, and that ball, as soon as that crosses that line, right? How many times have we seen people dive in for it for the same thing? This is, except the only difference, it's not a moving ruck in any way, shape, or form. It's just static, but then the ball gets moved, right?
To be fair, I think the outcome here remains the same whether you were thinking it or not, because I don't think even if you were thinking this is no longer a ruck, you wouldn't say, okay, defenders, come on up.
Right.
Like you
Yeah,
would
we
probably
don't
just keep
wanna
your mouth shut. And
we
they're
don't-
being so honest here that I think the outcome's the same.
Yes, we do not want to do anything. We want to referee that exactly the way it was refereed and let the players play the game, but you need to be aware of what's happening there. The other thing I did want to just discuss briefly, because we see Beantown do this very long ruck that is set up to protect that box kicker.
That was gonna be my question, Amanda. Is this something we want to allow?
So I think this one is close enough to legal that we would allow it, but you need to make sure that everyone who joins the ruck joins from last foot and is fully bound to the player that they join next to. So I think if we watch that, there's a bit of a question with one of the very first players really being fully bound. She's kind of gets an arm and there's a stretch. This girl right there, this first person, and you can't see her because she ends up getting blocked by this Berkeley player. But the rest of these people have decent binds, shoulder to arm, and they all came close enough to last foot that I'm okay with sort of playing through that one and then warning them as we move forward that they need to be fully bound. So, other
Amanda,
thoughts there?
I have another question. Outside of like the fully bound, are we okay with them crabbing out to the side like that? I know that the Premiership this season had like a bit of a chat with the teams and said, no, you kind of need to be going straight back, if I remember right.
So
are we okay with them
the
crabbing to the side?
clarification that came from the Premiership, if I'm correct here, is about the defense setting up a caterpillar ruck and then running the caterpillar ruck up in front of offside so that they could rush the offense faster. So this long ruck that forms to the side, as long as they come in last foot and as long as they're fully bound to the player next to them, it's okay. The problem is a lot of times they don't come in last foot. They just kind of sidle up to the side, which there's a bit of that right here. Those two people then drop off though. And that they're bound. Any other comments?
Just that let's be clear about the upshot. Like if the defense doesn't engage them, then there really isn't a penalty there, right? It's just a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, even if the defense did come forward on this one, because that ruck, everybody was bound, it's not obstruction.
Right, no, except for the one who's not really bound.
Yeah,
Right? If someone had engaged her, then it would be obstruction, but if there's no engagement, it's just a conversation, right?
yeah, it's something we want to discourage, but there's no penalty in this as it was formed, as I see it here.
Great. Just want to make sure that's clear for like what's
Yeah.
going to happen next. Cool. Thank you.
Any other comments about this? Okay, because we'll probably see it again. What's next?
Yeah, we could go to that one right above it, 2 for the price of 1. So this is a fun one, a little yin and yang, some positives and some negatives. Yeah, if we read Bob's notes, right, we could see the joining of the line out is not great. I only talked about it in pre-match, and then I let them do this every line out, which is not great. Unfair advantage, and it's one of the things that we chatted about in the line out module for the whole season. So I let that get away from me. And then similar to last week, I think I saw red open up and you see the long arm transfer, and yeah, open up like a curtain like we chatted, without stepping away from the line out, which caused the obstruction. So if anybody has any comments, thoughts, I'd be happy to chat.
This was the third line out of the game, very early, right? So she does the handoff, and then she clearly is moving way ahead, right? They were disconnected and everything else. And that's what he saw. So I'm going to go with his notion in that case.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, I'm fine with that.
It was a good, quick call. And this is early enough that said, okay, it's too close for me. This is no, that's not going to fix it. So, but again,
can I ask on this one? Because this to me, this was an immediate, I think maybe he heard me yelling from the sideline because this to me, like they opened that curtain up, right? And game management guidelines say that's a no-no.
So I do see 1 or 2 players step back, but the very first player goes to engage the maul. So to me, the maul is formed. If you watch,
I mean, whether or not, and we can't grab them, right? That's very clear, but she hangs in there and then steps to the side. So like, to me, this was not necessarily, this wasn't a penalty. This to me was like, we actually executed that really well, and the Beantown player engaged and then stepped away.
So we're not even concerned about the Beantown player stepping away because she engaged and the maul is formed at that point, right? So anybody who steps back after that, it doesn't matter because the maul is formed. But this pass, the transfer from the 8 right here, your player needs to be bound to her when that happens. So she's just too far away, and it's an unfortunate timing thing. It's a really tight call. So I would say 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be called. But because your player is not bound to the jumper, that's a long arm transfer. And then you've got 1, 2, 3 people here that the player who receives the ball is going to go into like a wall.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can we play that through one more time?
Yeah, we can.
I understand that facet of it.
Yep.
Even though the ball is not directly with her
super
until
tight.
after everything's moved.
See, right there. It's very tight.
Has it actually transferred though? Because I think that was where, like, just because she's holding it back, I don't know if she's actually transferred it. But I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be pedantic, but this screwed with our hooker for the rest of the game. So we had very poor lineouts for the rest of the game. Yeah, it was a mental difficulty for us then.
Literally a split second of timing.
Fair. So this also, in some ways, could have been a Beantown penalty.
100%. Well, it wouldn't have been a Beantown penalty. Your maul just would have been able to continue trucking down the field like that. Because the maul was formed, and you don't want us to call that back because they stepped away.
Yeah, correct. Okay,
Right.
so the clarification then is they can open the curtain, but they cannot step back.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And here, the maul is formed, so you guys have the right to go up the field.
Right,
What
and if it-
happens when the curtain opens and there's a transfer then is you wouldn't have the right, and that's why we penalize them for, well, if they open the curtain, we wouldn't penalize them for stepping back. But if they step back so that you can't move them all up the field, then we penalize them. Makes sense, or did I make it more confusing? Okay.
No, it definitely makes sense. It's a little of that sort of, like with that transfer, it's a little chicken or the egg, right? Like if they're engaging, then that doesn't look like a transfer to somebody, but because they like very, very minimally engage here, then it also, yeah, I understand why this might have looked that way.
It's tight.
You had one player from Beantown, and the player near the front of the lineout did engage. And if she chooses to drop off afterwards, that maul still exists.
Right. So if it hadn't been for the long arm transfer.
If the transfer had been legal, you guys could have gone all the way down to the goal line. And then it would be up to them to stop it.
We good? What's next?
And then the most recent, all the way up at the top. Yeah, so this is I was happy with the penalty for it not being in the tackle. But if we take out that tackling player, it's just one of these things that we've been chatting about. Is it this more than an intentional knock? You can see where we are on the pitch. We're inside attacking 22. And if you take out this defensive player, 14 is definitely through. Yeah. Just based on where the defensive support is.
Yep. Who wants to take a stab at this one? What are we saying?
Marty, I'll take a stab at this one. I think this is really similar to kind of what we were looking at last week, with the caveat that this is definitely an intentional knock on. Just slaps at the ball, not really going for much. I think probably the right decision here is a penalty and a yellow card to the player, the tackler. But I don't think it's a penalty try by any stretch of the imagination. There's at least one defender plus a couple more coming across. So that's not a probable try, possible try, but not probable. So yeah, for me, penalty, yellow card, easy.
Anyone have a different?
Sorry, my first instinct also is to say there's at least one, but I saw like 2 or 3 tacklers that are possible after. So my instinct was just the yellow card, no penalty try.
Yep. I'd say that's 100% the right decision. Anything else? Hannah, did you have anything?
I hopped on. I'm glad that line out clip was pulled up, because I think that was probably one of the like bigger questions I had, just in terms of how to manage that. And then yeah, I mean agree that I would say that was a yellow card that would have been nice to have had.
Yeah. Cool. Marty?
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, it was definitely a fun one on Saturday.
Thank you. It's a good game to watch. All right, and who's last? Brian at the airport. Are you there?
All right, so this is Brian. Couple things. If you go to an airport, be sure not to lock your keys inside your car.
Oh
It's
no.
really tough to get people to come and help you. And when you're driving your bus with you, it's just pretty embarrassing all around.
Do you need to go from this call and deal with
Second thing is, if I cut out, I think one of my coaches would happily take over for me. But basically what happened was there was a conspiracy from the get-go. Andrew Stockton wanted to be the Colorado Grey Rolls best referee, and so he told them not to pick me up from the airport. And then I rushed to the field, a beautiful day, and then Colorado decided to score many, many, many tries. And we have some interesting clips to look over. It was a good game, and it was just unfortunate that San Diego had lost a couple players because they B-52 bombers or something like that, and they can't leave the state. So it's pretty sad that that was the case, but there was some really good rugby, and then there was some parts that were a bit less great to watch. But in general, the plan was to get in there, to make something of it, and to try my best to keep it exciting for the fans. And then Andrew Stockton has been bullying me online, saying that I was left in the dust on the USA Rugby page. So, I mean, it's not a formal complaint, but it's hurting my feelings. I'm joking. All right, to the game. I think, Amanda, if you go to the yellow card first for the knock-on. I told myself I wouldn't make this a comedy show, but I locked myself outside. So. Atlanta, biggest airport in the world. So let me talk you through this. This is fantastic positioning by the referee here, and Colorado are going to break away to the right and be within an inch. Oh no, they're going to pass it out there. So the scrum half has the ball in their hands and is about an inch away from the try line. You can actually see that of the ruck is her feet go over the try line, because that's literally where the ball was. So I got into position to.
Hey, Brian, you're breaking up really bad.
And be ready for the quick
Brian.
snipe. Unfortunately, play an expensive game. AR. All right, we're back. A yellow card, and the second thing is I probably should have slowed down the game to make this decision. It was pretty early on, but from what it looked like an instant yellow card. But Coach Wendy sees that it may have not been such, and
maybe I can try to fill in some of the context since he's cutting out so bad. So Colorado's very close to scoring. Literally, the scrum half has to just touch over to the line and she's going to score. So he's going in goal, and so he's out of position. So he's running back. AR call comes in, intentional knock on, yellow card.
I mean, how is that not a try?
Yeah, or they're there, right?
So,
yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me, but the tackler does a great job, and this ball is an inch away, and you expect the San Diego player to stay on the try line. What they do is they move away, and the number 9, I cannot stress this enough, they had to put their hands on the ball and move it an inch. And instead they were like, no, we want the highlight reel. Because if you look at the hindmost player of on the ruck at the end that her foot is over the line.
Okay. There's no way from this video to figure out what happened to that ball.
You can, if you slow it down and look at frame by frame, you can. It literally is passed into her hands and she's like so surprised. She like knocks it on. Like, look at her. Like, oh God, the ball's here.
So it doesn't hit that white player at all?
No, it bobbles a bit here. It's all knocked on by San Diego. For me, this is like scrum. Maybe a penalty, soft penalty, but definitely not a yellow card.
Okay.
So I think most of it here is process. Like, hear the call from the AR. You're out of position. That's worth time off. Let's go chat about it. Let me get some real details here. Maybe we can get to another outcome.
Who has thoughts about this one?
This is Haley. I guess I can see the like unintentional surprise, but are we big picture because of like the context, like where it is, how many players are there? I feel like we have to give a penalty for if it's like an intentional knock in that space? Or is that not the right line of thinking? I mean, it's just so close.
So I think when we're talking about an intentional knock on, right, is there a possibility to regather? Is our first. Sorry, can you chew the carrot somewhere else? Right, can the player regather? And I'll be honest, I can't tell from this video. So I guess we have to go with Brian on the day. And if this is an intentional knock on, let's say this is an intentional knock on, then the answer probably is yellow card in that part of the field, right? If the answer was it's not intentional, which I can't really judge from this video, then the answer is a scrum.
So yeah, once again, I think the main thing, and I'll talk about it more, is just context when it comes to working with your ARs. I think that what Wendy would have liked to have seen, and probably I mean I agree with her, is that it would have been better to stop the game and maybe talk through the decision. I don't think that in real time that this is not going to look like an intentional knockdown, because there's a hand swiping across and that ball goes straight down. I think it's just a process thing. And then the other thing is that the player runs off straight away as soon as the whistle is blown. So they know exactly what's coming. And no one's questioning it. But I guess this is just more out of an interest. It's an interesting clip, once again, coming out of Colorado.
Yeah, I wish that we had better film, but I mean, a yellow card there for an intentional knock on makes perfect sense to my brain. Whether it was intentional or not, I feel like I can't get the clear answer from this video.
Well, so I think Wendy's point about the process is very good.
Yep.
Agreed. Next, I think we have, what do we have, Wendy? Do we have?
I put another yellow card one question. This one, good for the group, the tackle from behind. It's going to be hard, like we looked at last week, where you want to pick a player up and move them so you can see it. I mean, you'll have to zoom, Amanda.
We saw this already, man.
Yeah, right, it's yellow card number 2.
Way at the top. Oh, there you go.
And yeah, I don't know. Now we're getting like full field film. So if we could just get like a little bit of zoom, it would be good. I don't know why they want to see all the fans and all that. So it's fast. It's
we are looking at the removed by the head?
No, there's a
Oh.
tackle. And then 7 white, who's about to come around the corner. She takes out the scrum half, or the person picking up the ball.
I'm seeing 10 white removed by the head.
It's before that. I didn't see the 10 white. It's right there. It's hard to see.
Well, you had something with offside lines and she never got back on side.
Yeah, I think it's more like gate entry, right? So I don't think there's a ruck.
Oh, I see. So 7 white makes the tackle and she's never back far enough.
Yep, she never comes from her side of the goal line.
Okay.
So just another like cynical, sneaky thing. Maybe yellow card, maybe not. Open to the group.
What's the context around it? Because it's not pinging for me as a yellow without they've been really bad within the 22.
I think for me, it's starting to be where San Diego's had their opportunities and Colorado is just kind of getting away. Not that Brian missed anything. He had a great game, but I think Colorado just kind of is getting away with things. San Diego is not very often having ball and momentum, but then it's like spoiled almost.
So the question is, and I talk more about this with Roz as well. From my side, the player only has to get past the ball to be on sides. Because even if you're saying that San Diego have formed a ruck, the ruck off sideline would be the ball or like where that one player is standing. 7 does that, but the question is the ball picked up by that player that's essentially forming a ruck, and then they're picking it up and playing it and getting tackled. And it just seems when Wendy brings it up, it looks like maybe she's slightly coming in through the edge of the gate, but it's a one-man ruck, one woman ruck, one player ruck.
So I think when we talk about things having to be clear and obvious, that this probably is not clear and obvious enough for us to card. And for me, I'm not even sure it's clear and obvious enough for me to penalize. When we slow it down and we look at it, I definitely see it. You really had to draw my eye to it.
I agree. I think if you blow your whistle here, everybody is surprised at why you blow your whistle.
That's where I am with it too. In the interest of time, unless anybody has any brilliant thoughts on that one, what else do we have?
One more just on AR process. And we don't have comms or anything, but.
There's no comms here?
There were comms. This is more of a general point because I was talking with both my coaches and it seems that like we've talked about the ARing standards that we want to see and how to interact with that. Sorry, there's a plane taking off.
Sorry, I meant we can't hear their comms. That's what I meant.
Okay, I understand.
So what I'm saying is in this game, I made 2 calls that I wasn't very happy with, and it was purely based on the comms I got from my ARs. And they calls that I have to live with because I'm the one that made them. But we're just trying to think of a way that it would be best if, how we could interact with our ARs before and after the game to make sure that the processes that we're doing are getting the right decision on the day and that we are working together as a team to get the best product.
Right. So are you briefing your ARs prior to the match?
In this case, I really had 15 minutes to get everything done.
Right.
I had very good ARs, and I think it was just genuinely a picture and a speed thing, maybe, that there was one where it was an offside call, and it was just the ball went back deep, and a player came from onsides and just rushed up. And in this case, this ball gets messy and it pops out the side just completely randomly. And I get a call from the side saying a player dove over and made that ball pop out. And once again, it comes to probably slowing down the decision and then maybe talking to your ARs afterwards if you disagree with the call. And then maybe we could try and get them on these calls where we're showing them, hey, you were right, or hey, this is what the picture we're seeing is. So it's more of a general just comment of how we're going to try raise the standards for everyone.
And just how you process it, Brian, right? Like we talked about, like you first kind of show advantage to San Diego, and then you slowly bring your hand in as you're processing, and you've blown a very soft whistle, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, penalty. So it's just all this body language too. Like, so if you just time off, listen to your AR, and then explain, we're golden. It's not really about AR being right or wrong. Also, it's about your body language and what the team see and all of that too.
That too.
Good comment. Thank you. Okay, is that everything today? Yep. Yes.
Can I make a quick comment about ARs?
For sure.
So, I'm happy to hear from referees, like issues they've had or concerns they have, because I'm noticing there is a lot of inconsistency, and we don't do a great job training ARs. And I've witnessed some really great AR involvement and some really not great AR involvement. So I really would be interested in experiences you had. And the one piece of advice that I'd like to offer is to referee your game as if you didn't have ARs at all, and use them to help you when you have a doubt. So in both of these calls, Brian was really unsure. Like, he wasn't cited for the intentional knock. He wasn't sure about that AR call. He didn't really think it was one. And at the end of the day, you own your decision as a referee. And I don't really have an answer, so I hope that wasn't a confusing thing I just said. But referee your game, and if you don't think that it's the right call from the AR, at the end of the day, you can own it. So that's it. And I just want to invite you, if you had some experiences or clips, I'd like to put some things together so we can help ARs see good calls or not good calls. So if anything, jumps out to you from a game that you had, I would really be interested in having that information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So week 4 notes, some things from the games that we know probably are going to come back to haunt us, right? So the slingshot that we saw, hopefully that will not come back up. I'll be mentioning it to the coaches that the 8 needs to have their head in prior to set. We saw delaying the line out this week. So we need to make sure that we're ready going into our matches, and we have the verbiage set in our heads of how we are going to manage that. Basically, if they are within 10 meters of the line out, they are assumed to be approaching the line out. They should not stop on their approach. We do need to make sure, we might want to revisit the original stuff that we put out preseason about the tackler having to meet the particular obligations before we reward the poacher. And then finally, I'm noticing a couple of quick taps that I don't think are taken properly. So let's make sure the quick taps are going through the mark and they are leaving the hands of the player. Just tapping the ball to your foot is not good enough. I don't think I need to go through those with any more detail. Any comments with that? Okay. Week coming up, unfortunately, Atlanta has canceled their match. It was a little unclear to me whether Life West didn't want to travel or if Atlanta was the issue, but that match is canceled. So we've got Chris O'Malley heading to Beantown, Emily Shea going to New York, and Jenny Lou over at San Diego. So best of luck, guys.
Amanda,
Yes.
I just wanted to point out, I've been listening a lot on this call, and I've seen a huge change in how the referees are communicating, which is awesome. Like, you guys are in this call itself, how you guys are working with each other, you can see a really wonderful progression of supporting each other and helping each other think through your on-field decisions and off-field.
Sweet. Thanks, Olivia. Yeah, hopefully everybody's feeling pretty good about the product that we're putting out there. There's room for improvement, obviously, but we're doing a good job. We're meeting our obligation. So thank you all for your participation. Let me stop the recording, maybe. I can figure out how to.